If this is the first time you're listening to the Wealthy Wednesday show, please remember to subscribe and click on the like button. Are you ready to change your money flow? Would you like to get beyond the six figures that you keep bumping up against? Well, let me tell you, my book, Magical Money Manifestations, is going to help you create money manifestations on autopilot so that you will have more money, more freedom, and more joy in your life. Go to magicalmoneymanifestations.com to find out more information. Welcome to the Wealthy Wednesday show. I am your host, Lucy McMonagle. Women are recreating the rules for business, leadership, money, and they are changing the world in the process. Each week, join me for empowering messages and interviews that will inspire, motivate, and transform you. Giving a special shout out to Gordon Weary for creating the custom music that you are listening to now. Now, let's get started. Hey, welcome to another edition of the Wealthy Wednesday show. Today, I'm so incredibly excited. We have an incredible guest that has written 58 books. He's an expert on thought leadership, and he's also a phenomenal creator of AHAthat. Let me tell you a little bit more about our guest. His name is Mitchell Levy, and he is the AHA guy at AHAthat. And it is for a people publisher who works with various platforms and partners so that they can help people get their AHA message out into the world. Let's give a warm welcome to Mitchell. Mitchell, welcome to the Wealthy Wednesday show.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thank you, Lucy. And I thought I'd mention you and I saw each other in person at a retreat. Mm-hmm. And one of the people at the retreat was a Swami, the orange cowboy.
Yeah.
And since you got what you read, the Swami has given me a new small catchphrase. So I'll just sort of say it. So in addition to the AHA Guide, AHAthat, I am a people publisher that empowers thought leaders to share their genius.
Ooh, I love that. And
that's a gift from a Swami.
Thank you. Thank you, Swami. And if anybody has been following us on the Wealthy Wednesday show, please make sure you look back and watch the interview that we had with the Orange Cowboy, also known as Swami. So, Mitchell, you are an incredible thought leader. You have this ability to bring the thoughts out of individuals to bring them into the world. But could you explain to my audience what exactly is thought leadership?
So I'm happy to. What I want to do is give you a feeling or understanding of what thought leadership was. Mm-hmm. And then I'll tell you what thought leadership is morphing into and what we see more about thought leadership today. So in the old days, and what's to say at least a decade or so before, the people who we called thought leaders were brought to us by the record companies, the broadcast industry, the publishers. These were the people who we were told, or the bands we were told to listen to, the actors we saw on the little screen, remember when there were 3 TV channels, or the big screen, and the authors we were told to read. And what would happen is these quote unquote thought leaders, these icons, they would say jump, and their audience would say how high. And so, and actually, let me not say audience, their flock would say how high. And so a thought leader of the past was a person who sort of set the tone, set the world. There was a person who talked about customer service. There's a person who talked about increasing sales. And there was one person that a publishing company put out there to make happen. Now, fast forward to today. We have the internet. We have everyone and their brother has one of these microphones.
Yes.
We have so many opportunities to share who we are and what we do. And what happens is if we do it well, we're connecting with our audience, and our audience are connecting with us, and we're growing. And what that means when we have an audience that's growing and also one that we connect with, that means we actually listen. So we don't say jump and our flock says how high. We say jump and our audience says why. And then we answer them. and we have an ongoing conversation. So whether or not you call it a thought leader or you call it a recognized expert, what we're really looking for today is we're looking for the people who we know can solve our problem, not just the generic problem that we may have, but our problem. And so we're looking for people that we know, like, and trust, who can then either answer our questions directly if it's appropriate, or have interacted with us, or that we know because they've solved a problem very similar for themselves, or maybe they solved a problem for our friends, that we're interested in working with them as well. What I may encourage you to do, my consulting website is thinkaha.com. And if you go to thinkaha.com, I have a tab on thought leadership. And in that tab, I have testimonials, and I have the most important thing, I have a 2x2. And when I look at a thought leader or a recognized expert, it's the 2x2 is audience by content. And so it's how big is your audience in relation to how much content you have. And I'll spend just one more minute on this, Lucy. And so if you have no audience and no content, you're unknown. If you have a relatively large audience, but your content's very narrow, I would call you an evangelist. And the downside with evangelists are so narrow in their content is that they're not seen as being authentic. Now, if you have a good amount of content because you're an expert and your audience is not as big as you need it to be or want it to be, then you actually clearly are an expert. You may be the unknown expert. And the person who has the right amount of content, and I'm using the word right with my double quotes up, with the right audience, they're the thought leader or the recognized expert. So you don't have to be on the big screen and the world know who you are to be a thought leader or recognized expert. It's the audience that you need to reach, or they need you to reach them, that know who you are, and you're presenting the right amount of content to the right audience. That makes you the thought leader or recognized expert.
Wow. And can you elaborate a little bit more on content? And what do you mean by if you have the right amount of content compared to the right amount of audience? Can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
So content is largely, what are you sharing with the world? Whether or not you're sharing it verbally, you're sharing it with video, you're sharing it with books, whatever vehicle you have that you're communicating, whether or not you're creating courses and people are taking those courses. So it's what vehicles that you have, and how have you created and interacted with those vehicles where they are now available to your audience to get access to. And a lot of that depends on your business models and how you're trying to monetize this content that you have. So the right amount of content means that, and actually a better way to say this, is that it's not just your content. Here's one thing that I often say, and sometimes it shocks people. When you're sharing content on social media or in other places, 80% of what you share should be somebody else's.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The thought leader of the past, all they would do is talk about themselves, me, and my, and follow my way. And the thought leader of today, if 80% of what they share are their peers or their competitors' information, and say, here's how we do it, here's how they do it, here are the differences, for the audience that feels like my way works, come to me. And that's what I mean by the right audience. There may be part of the audience that should logically go to your competition, and you know what? That is really okay. Because if you actually encourage your audience to go somewhere else, they're going to recognize that what you really have in your heart is your desire to be successful. You have their best interest in your mind. So you may send them somewhere else and they may do a single transaction over there, but they're going to continually come back to you because you're the right person who cares about them being successful. So that was the answer that dealt with both the content and audience.
And that is so incredibly important to understand, that as an up-and-coming leader, as an individual that, let's say you're starting to move up, because my audience are individuals that are moving into becoming the thought leaders, the experts of today, and they are conscious women entrepreneurs, they're spiritual women entrepreneurs, and they're mystical entrepreneurs who are ready to start going through that six-figure, the multiple six-figure, even seven-figure income, while they're still creating an impact on the world and creating a legacy. And as they believe in cooperation, they're also taking business in a new way, just like you explained. They have the customer's best interest at heart, whether it's me serving them or whether it's you serving them, as long as that customer's needs and their problems are being served properly. And I feel like a lot of times in the past that may have been missed.
Oh, I'm not sure may have is the right word, but yes.
Well, we don't want to point our fingers to anybody. But I really believe that this is more important these days. And can you explain, I've just explained my audience to you and what they're
Absolutely. That
looking
was
to
great.
do. So
Right.
can you explain to me how exactly can you help them?
Oh, great question. Thanks for queuing that up. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
The so in terms of being a recognized expert, what here's one thing you do. Let's say there are 10 people in the world who could use your service.
Hmm.
It's kind of easy. You can call up each of the one person one at a time, and you could talk to them about their issues, their concerns, their problems, and you could say, "Hey, I've done these sort of things." And after you're done with your ninth or 10th phone call, you're like, "Yeah, you are the recognized expert in the space because you've had the time to touch everybody." Now, typically our audience is much larger than that, and we don't have the ability to touch everybody with a direct one-to-one phone call. So the best way that anyone can demonstrate they're an expert, well, first, probably the best way, but we'll say this one's out of the, is spend a couple years, like 3, 4 years, and get a PhD. So lots of money, lots of time. Once you're a doctor at something, you're automatically assumed to be the expert in a space. Now, let's put that aside for most people because, the large percentage of the population are not doctors. And even those that are, the next best thing you can do is to become the author of a book.
Hmm.
Now, I've got 4 different book publishing companies in addition to the social media enabled ebook platform, AHAthat I have. And so that means for over a decade, I spent time trying to help people get their message to the marketplace and do it in such a way where they communicate effectively who they are. And my job has always been, how do we shorten the time to market that an expert has before they get their book and share it out there? So first of all, I'm going to say, and this is one of your previous questions before we were talking, is, Mitchell, you tell me people could write a book in 8 hours.
Correct.
And so the answer is yes. So I'll tell you about that. And I
Mhm.
even have a better solution than that. So if the best tool you can use to show you're an expert is to write a book, then what you need to do is make sure you do that. And now you're saying to yourself, well, I don't have any time. I've got things going on. Things are busy. And you know what? That's the thing I recognize. And even if you can write a book in 8 hours, what I can tell you based on past experience, there are people who have paid to actually write and publish their book. We did a Kickstarter 9 months ago. 20 people, the cool part, we hit 250% of our goal.
Wow.
20 people paid to actually write their book, their AHA book, and have it published either as what we do is we publish as a social media enabled ebook, we publish as a PDF and Kindle, and then we also can publish as a hardcover and paperback. So
Mhm.
a good example would be one of the books that I wrote. What I did is I interviewed 4 of my authors,
Mhm.
and this one's published as a paperback. And then on the inside, it's got 1 or 2. We typically print in color of those that can see. It's got 1 to 2 AHA messages per page. And then what we do is we also, so the fascinating part is we did this Kickstarter. 20 people paid to have their book, that they were going to write their book and publish it.
Mhm.
So Lucy, can you guess how many people after 6 months actually wrote their book? Can you, is this a
After
good enough
six
hint?
months,
Yeah. Wait. No, this is the hint.
one person.
One. Yes. And
Oh,
so I honestly, I was shocked, right? Because
yes.
these are people who not only said they were going to write the book, these are people who spent money to
Mm-hmm.
actually write their book. So it encouraged me. And by the way, this is one thing I'm also going to say as a thought leader, as an expert. You want to listen to your clients, you want to listen to your prospects, because they're going to tell you the next product to create. So
Mm-hmm.
even though nobody was telling me that I needed to do this, if 1 out of 20 who spent money actually found 8 hours in a 6-month period, that's a problem. Okay.
That's a
So
huge problem.
it's a huge problem. So I called up one of the authors, and it always, when I tell this story, it reminds me I need to get a hold of the others. And what I suggested is that we do a 2-hour interview. Because if
Mhm.
I do a 2-hour interview with somebody, and let me come back to what we talk about. When I do a 2-hour interview, my team then can ghostwrite the AHA book. So now we're 9 months after the Kickstarter, and 3 people have their books done. And I eventually, I'm going to, as I say this, I'm going to write the note and actually email out the other folks and say, hey, how would you like us to do the interview so that we can do that for you? So whether or not you write it yourself, let me give you a web page to go to, because we have a 3-step writing process. If you go to ahathat.com/author, that's where you'll see our 3-step writing process. And I must also tell you about the 3 steps, because the point I want to make on what we'll talk about is part of step 1.
Yes.
Step 1 is a Word document, 4 questions.
Mm-hmm.
Can you see I'm trying to make stuff super simple and super
Yes.
easy, because the point of writing a book is not to be complicated or crazy. The point is to do nothing more than to attract an audience who recognize you as an expert that can solve their problem. All right. So in our Word document, there are 4 questions. What's your name? What's your bio? And by the way, as you and I have figured out, even though my bio's on the website, you found an older one. So that's my job to figure out where you found it and fix it, right? So it's cleaner.
Yes.
So what's your name? What's your bio? What's the title of your book? A 1-paragraph summary. But what we have as question 1 is the most important. So I'm going to tell you how it reads, but then I'll tell you what it means.
Okay.
How it reads is, who is your expected reader and how will they benefit from the book? Or what are their expectations? Now, let me tell you what that really means. Who is your prospect and what is their pain point?
Mm.
So when we do the 2-hour interview, what I'm doing, or what whoever on my team is interviewing you is doing, and by the way, I'm still looking for many more coaches who want to do the interviews themselves. What you're doing when you're talking to your, in this case, either your client, you're talking to them if you're doing the interview, or if I'm talking to you, if you're being spoken to, who is your client and what is their pain point? If you spend 2 hours talking about who you are and what you do and what you know and who your clients and prospects are and where they have pain in the world and what are some of the things you do to fix it, trust me, in that area, that's where we pull out the genius from you and have the ability to create 140 AHA messages that are then all easily shared on social media. So an AHA book has 140 bite-sized quotes that are easy to share on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Google+. So that's where the interview, and that's how we tie that together. Just to finish the 3-step process, step 2 is a single-page PDF, because I've actually curated 50,000 AHA messages. And
Mm-hmm.
so I wrote a single-page PDF on what makes a good AHA message. Now, whether you publish with us or not, what I recommend is you have to share content on social media. Go to ahathat.com/author, download the PDF and read it. It will help you be able to share content better when you're sharing in the future. And then step number 3 is an Excel spreadsheet, because that's where we encourage you to put your AHA messages, because it keeps track. We put in a function where it keeps track of how long it is.
Mm-hmm.
Because an AHA book has 140 quotes, which are 140 characters or less. And so really simple 3-step process. I'd love to say to everybody, you could write it yourself and do it in 8 hours. And if you are that person who could sit down, and we've had 300 authors write their book in 8 hours or less. If you're that person and you have that discipline, then please just follow the process and do that yourself. If you're not and you know yourself better, then let us know, and we're happy to do the interview. And we're basically pulling out your genius, and then we're putting it in words so that you can then update the words and make it your own.
Wow, Mitchell, that is so incredible. And the four-step
Thank you.
process that you were just talking about is so easy.
It's supposed to be. Well,
Yes.
that's the thing.
It
They go, "Oh, Mitchell, it's and I've got some toys I can show you." But the I'll show you two favorite books, given your audience, which are fun. Um, Life is supposed to be easy. Life is
yes.
supposed to be fun. We somehow go out of our way every now and then to make it difficult.
Mhm.
And the hint that I'd like to give you is to really be you. Be the person who's you. And if people don't like you, that doesn't mean you have to change. That just means you have to change the people who you're associating with. Because we want to hang out, we want to do business, we want to interact with people we know, like, and trust. Well,
Correct.
they need to get to know you. They have to at least like you enough, right? There are many things you can overlook, right? But they have to at least like you enough. And then they have to trust you. And the thing
Yes.
is, if you're not you, if you're not authentic, if you don't have integrity, how could somebody actually truly get to know you? Or if you know all the answers all the time and you don't demonstrate vulnerability, how do people really trust who you are? So I want to share a couple. This is I don't know if I ever showed you this book before. It's called
Mhm.
Mom and Dad, I Promise I'll Get into College. It's an author, Jeff Shavitz, who we've done 6 books with so far, and this is his daughter, Lexi. And
Oh.
we had so much fun with this book. It's a 4-section book. Her sections are pink.
Mhm.
Um, his sections are blue. And I'll show you the picture they took together. And I'm going to lead you to another question. One of his favorite moments with his daughter is when they did a photo shoot just specifically for this book.
Oh,
Because
fabulous.
this is in paperback format, we went
Mhm.
ahead and helped make it an Amazon best-selling book. We
Mhm.
also, she got to speak at a couple of events. So when she applies to college, she's a best-selling author who has spoken at events. So
Wow.
the business, thank you, by the way. So the business model here was, oh, how do we give Lexi another tool up?
Mhm.
Right? That's the way to think about it. So as a coach, how do you get another tool up? So I'm not sure how many of your audience, I brought this book out, and it may not be the perfect one, but what Jeff ended up doing is buying a golf course franchise that books tournaments and
Mhm.
sponsorships at golf courses. So I said, Jeff, we need a book called Driving Incremental Golf Course Revenue. So hardcover book,
Yes.
same concept on the inside. It's 140 bite-sized quotes, but we also had fun. If you notice here, we use a golf ball for page
Oh,
numbers.
yeah, I like that.
And so here's something to think about for Jeff. Oh, we do color on the inside,
Mhm.
but I'd like you to think about this in relation to you as well. So occasionally when I say this, people go, driving incremental golf course revenue, you're not going to sell a lot of books. Here's my initial answer. It doesn't really matter if I sell any books. That's absolutely irrelevant. Now, we will, by the way, and we have. What's relevant is that there are 21,000 golf courses in the United States.
Mhm.
What Jeff and his team are doing is you get the address for 100 at a time. You send a hardcover book with a handwritten note to a golf course operator. Now, if you're a golf course operator and you see this book, you are bound to open it. Now, you may not spend the 10 minutes to read the whole book. Maybe you
Mhm.
spend 2 or 3 minutes and you read 2 or 3 aha messages. When somebody from either Jeff or somebody from his team call, you're going to take the call, right?
Yes.
So for you personally, anyone who's a coach in any way, anyone who's transforming the world the way you do, if you could demonstrate that you have some answers to your prospects' pain points, guess what? You're the expert and people want to at least listen to you. You now have the door open. You have a little bit of the credibility there. Now you need to do your thing.
Yes. Wow. Simple process. And a lot of the spiritual entrepreneurs that that are listening to this, they're probably shaking their head. Yeah,
I could do
that
this.
sounds
Yes.
really easy. I could
And
do
you
that.
can.
Exactly. And what's brilliant about it is that's literally sales. And there's so many spiritual entrepreneurs that they hear that S word and they're like, ah, and they want to scream because they just want to give. And you're teaching them how to give on a really deep level, show their expertise, get the interest so that people know, like, and trust them.
I think that Lucy, you're doing really well. By the way, your skill set is phenomenal at what you do. And
Thank you.
anyone's interested, go to Lucy's LinkedIn profile. You'll see my recommendation of her.
Yes.
And I think what's interesting about this is what I've been able to do is allow you to put your content in a format that, oh, by the way, guess what? This is a format that has a price point on the back. This book has a price point of $24.95. If it turns out that you get lucky enough that some organization finds your message compelling and they want to buy 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 copies of your book, well, guess what? You have an asset now that most of the time, books don't make money for authors, but we've written some really nice royalty checks to those authors who have either found the sponsors or incorporated into classes, or whether it's a college class or individual classes they do. And yes, I know it has the sales word associated with it. It's also the M word, the marketing word associated with it.
Yeah.
But if people don't know you, if you're unknown, it doesn't matter how much of an expert you are. As a matter of fact, I do need to say this because it may be applicable to some, and you need to get over this. Okay, here's what I have to say. We've had 5 people, I want to say people because I'm not sure they ever published their books, who have called or sent email and said to me their content is so good they either I need to sign an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, to read it, which, by the way, there is no content that's that good, or
Mhm.
B, it's going to sell more copies than the Bible. So
Mm.
typically what happens is publishers will run away from people like that because
Ah,
it means the expectations are so off. The problem on the heartfelt side is no matter how great your content is, there's some audience who will like it and some audience that doesn't.
correct.
This is not you. It doesn't mean they like you or don't like you. This
Mhm.
means that the manifestation of the work you've done, object called a book, they either like or don't like. I mean,
Mhm.
I look at mine. I love this thing, and people open up and say, "Oh man, I can't stand it." Well, that's fine. You're not my client, right?
That's correct.
But do me a favor, hand this to, and then if I happen to know who they're, hand this to so and so, either your
Mhm.
son or your daughter, or hand this to somebody in your organization who focuses on this area, and see what they say. That's okay, right? And so books don't sell themselves, just like people don't sell themselves, unless if your audience is an audience of 10 and you're calling up one at a time, that's you actually selling yourself. You're not using the word sales, but by getting to know your prospect and for them getting to know you, you are by definition, even if you never say here's what I charge and what I do, you are in the process of selling and marketing yourself. These are not bad words.
No, they are
For,
not.
for people to know, like, and trust you,
Mhm.
somewhere along the way, they've had to be exposed to you. And that's your
Yeah,
job, is to figure out how can you touch the people who could benefit from the services you're offering.
exactly. And that is absolutely perfect. And Mitchell, this has been such a phenomenal interview. I really appreciate you taking the time, and we're almost ready to wrap it up. So, is there any last thoughts you would like to leave our audience with?
So if this is compelling to you, I'll give you 2 ideas. For those that want to connect to me, you can always Google Mitchell Levy. Somewhere in the top 10 names, I'll have 5 of those. So connect to me on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Instagram, a Snap if you're a Snap person. I've got a small number of followers there. You could do it on Facebook. because there's a 5,000 limit, let me know where you're coming from and why we should connect. The other thing you can do, and Lucy, I'll make this suggestion to the audience. If you do the 3-step process, first, I'd recommend you fill out the Word document. And then on the spreadsheet, if you only fill out 10 or 15 aha messages and you're just curious, am I going in the right direction? Is this going to work for me? There's an email address on the form. You could send it to the email address. Say you've heard me on the Lucy McGonigal show and that you'd like Mitchell Levy to actually give direct feedback based on what you wrote. My team will make sure they get that content to me, and I'll give you direct feedback. Now, be ready. I'll give you direct, honest feedback of what I like and don't like, and I'm happy to do that. And it's just my perspective of how I see that you're presenting yourself, and I'm happy to do that. So that would be my present to your audience.
Whoa, that is amazing. So definitely, if you're listening to this, take him up on this offer because he does not offer this to just anybody. And if you're listening to this, go to his website at ahathat.com/author. Fill in the forms, the 3-step process, look at the email at the bottom and send him an email. Specify that you would like him directly, Mitchell, to look at your AHAthat information and see what he thinks about it. Wow. Thank you so kindly, Mitchell. That is
You're welcome.
phenomenal. I'm tickled pink with this. So
Oh, well, in the perfect world, if there's more than enough time to do that, there's always time to do a quick review like that. My team does all the real nuts and bolts stuff. Don't we all, in our heart of hearts, isn't our goal to help other people be successful?
yes.
If I could do a teeny tweak of allowing somebody to see the world in a slightly different way, a smaller adjustment to a framework that allows them, just like you did before, right? Just talking about yourself and putting a book means you're selling, but it's not a bad word. That's a framework adjustment.
Yes.
So if we could all make a small framework adjustment to others and those on the other side go, oh my God, I see things in a different way and I can make that happen. First of all, I'll say that's an AHAthat because I like AHAthat to be a verb. That's an AHAthat or that's an aha moment. And that's our goal in life. That's what we need to do. That's what I feel is my responsibility to help others do.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mitchell. I am so grateful you've been on the Wealthy Wednesday show. And
My
thank you
pleasure. Thank
for,
you, Lucy.
yes. So thank you. And I want to thank my audience. You are the cornerstone on why I am creating the Wealthy Wednesday show every single week. If you've been following me, you've been getting some tips, some strategies. We have expert interviewers. And you also know that I recently published my own book, Magical Money Manifestations. So go to my website at lucymcmonagle.com/magical, or you can go to magicalmoneymanifestations.com and see how you can not only get a copy of the book, you can also get some bonus materials that I prepared just for you. So until next time, abundant blessings. Thank you for listening to the Wealthy Wednesday Show. This is your host, Lucy McMonagle. I am the Mystic Wealth Creator, a mentor for conscious women entrepreneurs, helping them create more freedom in their business through conscious wealth creation. I would love to extend to you a free gift. And all you need to do is go to my website at lucymcmonagle.com. That's lucymcmonagle.com to get your free gift. So until next time, abundant blessings.